Hello, good evening, everyone. I know what you're thinking. I'm not Simon. I am standing in for Simon today. I hope this doesn't disappoint you, but you'll be pleased to know I heard about the jazzy shirt situation. And what do we think? Ian, have I won this one?
Easy, no contest. You've won the full 3 weeks. Yeah.
So I'm April Kelly. I am living with bipolar type 2, and I am the ambassador for Bipolar UK. So this is the charity we all love dearly and who you know lots about already, so I won't go into that again. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, and I'll see you guys in the Q&A. But tonight, we're going to be identifying triggers, we're going to be looking at early warning signs, and we're going to be talking about mood monitoring. I'm very excited about this because I'm pants at all of this. So if nothing else, I'm going to learn a lot. And I think that's over to you then, Ian.
Excellent. Thank you, April. Fantastic to have you with us tonight. I'm just going to very briefly introduce myself. I'm Professor of Psychiatry, a psychiatrist by background, Director of the National Centre for Mental Health in Cardiff University, and I've been involved with the team here for many years in delivering our psychoeducation programme, Bipolar Education Programme Cymru. We've delivered it to over 750 people now across Wales. And what we're doing in these webinars that we've been doing for the last couple of weeks is giving you a little bit of a taster as to what the content of the full group psychoeducation program is involved. Obviously, it doesn't serve as a replacement for that. And actually, one of the things that we'd like to perhaps come back at in the discussion later is how we can make sure that more people across the UK have access to this approach, because we really think it can be helpful. So with no further ado, having introduced myself, having introduced the program that we're involved with in Cardiff, just remind you that you can ask on the Q&A tab or the Q&A box. You can ask questions before there. We'll come and we'll deal with some of those in the question and answer session at the end. We won't be able to cover everything, but what we've promised that we'll do is kind of produce some written answers to the questions, and we'll put those up and we'll let you know where you can access those on the NCMH site. So with no further ado, I'll hand you over to John, who's going to introduce the team that will be talking tonight. John.
Thank you, Ian. Yes, my name's John. I'm a mental health nurse working, lucky enough to work with Ian, and I've been involved in the. Yeah, he's nodding his head. Let me introduce the rest of the team. Okay, Kate. Who are you, Kate?
Hi. So I'm working with the NCMH team at the minute and helping facilitate the Bitesize BEPC booster sessions throughout the lockdown.
Thank you, Kate. Alice, who are you?
Hi. Yes, so I also work as part of the National Centre for Mental Health field team. So I'm usually involved in kind of research, so meeting with people with lived experience of bipolar and other mental health conditions to take part in research. But thanks to COVID, my role's changed quite a bit temporarily, and so really excited to get involved in this tonight.
Thank you, Alice. Sarah, who are you? Sorry,
somebody muted.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I have lived experience of bipolar, and I am a previous attender of the BEPC course.
Thank you, Sarah. Holly, who are you?
Hi everyone. So I also work alongside Kate, Alice, John and Ian for the National Centre for Mental Health. I'm a senior psychology assistant, and during the pandemic I've been helping to co-facilitate the Bitesize BEPC sessions.
Are you also feeling privileged to work alongside us, Holly? Is that fair to say? Yeah, good. I thought you forgot to mention that, but I'll just put that.
Sometimes things are best left unsaid, Ian.
Kate and Alice never said that, Ian. There we are.
I was slightly worried that Kate said she works for us at the minute. I was thinking she might be able to tell us something. So, but
Hannah, who are you?
I'm Hannah. I'm a previous participant of the Bipolar Education Programme. So I have lived experience of bipolar type 2.
Thank you, Hannah. And also there's Catherine and Naomi there, who are helping run this evening. So this is the third of the, as Ian said, this is the third of the webinars. The first one looked at what bipolar disorder is, and we looked at possible causes. Last week, the second one, we looked at different treatments, including psychological approaches, medication, and lifestyle approaches. And tonight, we're looking at self-management. Self-management methods of helping you to manage bipolar a little bit better. There's lots of questions were coming in. If anyone has any more questions, do send them in because we'll be answering at the end. But we'll start our presentation now. And Kate, I think you're starting first, aren't you? And Kate's going to talk about triggers.
There we go. So I'm just going to be talking about how you can identify triggers in bipolar. So firstly, what is a trigger? Any type of stress, be it positive or negative, can ignite a mood change and lead to an episode of illness. Perhaps you've had a particularly stressful period at work, an argument with a loved one, changes in seasons, or even the birth of your child can all have the potential to prompt an onset of episodes of mania or depression. The situation or events which prompt a mood shift are known as triggers. It's important to highlight here that everyone has triggers, although certain people may be more susceptible to common triggers than others. And the stress vulnerability model explains this nicely, which we did speak about in webinar 1. And I encourage you, if you didn't make that session, to go back and revisit this model. Whilst at times we may not be able to avoid certain triggers, we can learn to manage how we react to them. So these are some common triggers of mania and depression. And they can overlap. These aren't definitive lists by any means. So we'll start with mania. Positive and stressful life events, recreational drugs and alcohol abuse, excessive partying and overexerting yourself, seasonal variations, and sleep loss. And then for depression, we've got stressful life events, fatigue and sleep deprivation, physical illness, and work stresses. And as I've said, these are just a few examples of common triggers and by no means an exhaustive list. There are countless different triggers and yours will be unique to you and your own situations. It is important to remember that there are differences between a trigger and a warning sign. A trigger is what sends you into your highs and your lows, and warning signs are early symptoms which let you know you're becoming unwell. This will be covered in the next presentation by Alice in slightly more detail. But the main take-home message is a trigger will occur before a warning sign. And sometimes these two can be difficult to disentangle. For example, sleep disruption can be a common trigger for bipolar episodes, whereas sleep disturbances can be a common early symptom of becoming unwell. For this reason, it's important to share your triggers and warning signs with family and friends and health professionals. By keeping friends and family up to date with triggers and warning signs, they may be able to help you recognize when you need professional help. So how do we identify trigger? Learning what destabilizes your mood is the first step towards devising an effective coping strategies to control your triggers. A recommended way is to keep a mood chart, journaling, or life charts. And as Holly will mention later on in the slideshow, there are several ways and options to do this. Whether you choose an electronic version like an app or a website, or prefer pen and paper, it's advised that you routinely track your moods. That could be once a week, or maybe you find it beneficial to check in with yourself once a day. Whatever it is, consistency is key in learning your unique ticking points. So life charts. This is an exercise where you will retrospectively look at previous episodes of illnesses and start to think of events that surrounded your mood change. As you go through this exercise, you might start to notice common triggers that appear in your episodes, such as changes in seasons or big life events. So here you will plot on the horizontal line your age, and on the vertical line, plot your episodes against your age. And once you can see your episodes, you can start to think about what were the experiences or what were the things happening in your life at that moment that maybe could have triggered an episode. Secondly, we've got journaling and mood charts. Some researchers have argued that retrospective self-report measures may be limited by recall bias and strongly affected by peak moments. As a result, daily or weekly monitoring might be a more reflective and an accurate representation of current behaviours and experiences. Pairing mood monitoring with a journaling exercise can help you put your mood changes into perspective with your experiences of that day or week. So to summarise, knowing and understanding your triggers can help reduce the frequency of episodes by avoiding certain situations, events, and people. It can help you gain a sense of control over your condition and can help you become more attuned to warning signs, meaning you can seek help sooner. So I'm just going to now pass on to Alice, who will talk about warning signs and relapse plans.
Lovely, thank you, Kate. So tonight then in this webinar, I'll be talking about identifying early warning signs and creating relapse plans. Two things which have been shown to be really important in the self-management of bipolar disorder. So evidence shows that it's possible to identify changes in thoughts, feelings and behaviours which may be early warning signs of a mood episode. And identifying these can enable you to create what's known as an early warning signature, as well as a plan of steps to take to help manage changes in mood, which may be early signs of a relapse. So effectively doing this has been shown to increase the time to relapse, reduce admission times, and improve social functioning and work performance. And studies showed that the time to act on identified early warning signs is approximately 2 to 4 weeks. But some people can have a big mood change overnight or in the space of a few hours, so action should be taken as soon as possible. So early warning signs and relapse plans should be thought of as a continual work in progress, which should be updated frequently and entirely personalised to you. So in the weeks before a mood episode, many people experience a cluster of similar symptoms, and these include thoughts, feelings and behaviours which may be early signs of either depression or mania. Some are common to many people, while others may be specific to you. And using personalised mood charts and being aware of triggers, as talked about by Kate, can be really helpful for identifying these. So I've just got some examples here of early warning signs of depression. So you might want to have a look at those and think about, whether there's anything that you would kind of resonate with there. And also then with early warning signs of mania or hypomania. And of course, we've got examples here, but a lot of these things might be very personal to yourself. So identifying these signature symptoms can give you time to act before fully relapsing, and it enables you to think about a relapse plan consisting of simple steps to take to try and prevent a relapse and effectively nip episodes in the bud. So again, I've just listed a few things here which might be kind of simple steps to think about in terms of trying to nip an episode in the bud. And so, for example, with depression then, you might think about speaking to somebody you trust about how you're feeling, or thinking about seeing others for support. You might also try and distract yourself from negative thoughts by doing things you enjoy, reducing alcohol consumption, or taking exercise. It can also help to get organised. So, for example, prioritising things you might need to do at work or with life admin, which might easily get out of hand if you do experience an episode. You might also think about taking short-term medication agreed with your psychiatrist, CPN or GP. Again, these are just examples, so there may be some things which you kind of feel specifically for yourself would be really helpful to do. So again, thinking about simple steps for mania or hypomania, some of these might be similar as those for depression, but you might also think about doing things like asking someone you trust for their opinion on your behaviours, or handing your credit card, passport or keys to someone you trust. Also, as I talked about last week, so it might be helpful to refer back to last week's presentation if you didn't manage to catch it. It can also be helpful to think about things like your sleeping routine, reducing alcohol consumption and avoiding recreational drugs. You might also think about taking time off work or take short-term medication agreed with your psychiatrist, CPN or GP. So NCMH and BEPC have put together a really useful template to help you think about early warning signs for both depression and again got some examples here, and also for mania and hypomania. And then as well as that, we've also got a template for helping put together a relapse or intervention plan. So completing this document will help you to become more aware of personal early warning signs and to develop a plan of steps to take following identification of these, and can contribute significantly to the self-management of bipolar disorder. So it may be helpful to share this with family, close friends, carers and health professionals, or even to ask for their help in creating it if you feel comfortable doing so. So as part of your relapse plan, it can also be helpful to have a contact sheet consisting of up-to-date details of key individuals involved in your care. This can help make it quicker and easier to contact the right person in an emergency or once early warning signs have emerged. When putting this together, it's helpful to consider issues such as who to contact in an emergency outside of normal working hours, or what to do if you can't be seen by secondary services as soon as you'd like. Again, it may be helpful to share this with other people who you're close to, or with key people involved in your care, and to keep it to somewhere easily accessible as well, as there might come a time when others may need to contact those involved in your care on your behalf. So just to summarise then, an early warning signature consisting of thoughts, feelings and behaviours which may be early symptoms of a relapse can enable you to put into practice the simple steps from your relapse plan, helping you to nip episodes in the bud. It's important to remember though that living with bipolar disorder is a continual process of learning how to manage your symptoms as best you can. Your early warning signature should therefore always remain a personalised work in progress. It's also important to remember that acting on an early warning signature may not always be effective at nipping episodes in the bud, and it's therefore crucial to get help sooner rather than later if you feel you aren't able to manage keeping an episode at bay on your own. In which case, please do contact your GP, psychiatrist or CPN if you feel you need to. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation, and I'm just going to hand over to Holly now.
Brilliant. So this session is going to focus on the importance of mood monitoring and staying well. So looking at our first slide here, careful and frequent monitoring of your mood is one of the key skills you can learn for effectively managing bipolar disorder. So monitoring your mood can help you to recognise when everyday changes in your mood are beginning to get out of hand. And it can also help you to spot relationships between what's going on in your life and how this might affect your mood. So previous research has shown that monitoring your mood can be effective in reducing the likelihood of having further episodes of depression or mania. It can also reduce the length and severity of episodes which occur. Learning how best to monitor your mood and recognise the triggers of depression and mania can help you develop a risk management plan so you know how to manage any early warning signs that were discussed earlier on. This can involve working with healthcare professionals as well as family and friends, and also just so they're aware of how to recognise and support you with any early signs of distress. So our next slide looks at the mood scale which was put together by Bipolar UK, which can help you describe your moods. So the scale isn't meant to be definitive, but it is an indicator of possible behaviours you may experience when you're feeling low, high, or even when your mood is relatively stable. It may be that you experience some, but not all of the behaviours listed, as everybody who experiences bipolar disorder is different. So one useful way of monitoring your mood is to use paper-based charts, such as the one produced by Bipolar UK. It's a great way of keeping track of any changes in your mood. And it can be completed manually, and it's easy and it's an inexpensive way of tracking your mood. However, the charts are often filled out inconsistently, as individuals may not keep them up to date. You either forget to fill them in, or it might be that you just become unwell and you're too unwell to fill them in on a daily basis. A particular issue is that early on in an episode, you may experience a loss of insight, which is often one of the first symptoms of an impending recurrence, and therefore mood diaries won't be your first priority. So an alternative to using paper-based charts are ones that you can use electronically. So the use of websites is increasing, and for some individuals, it may be easier to use than paper charts. Inconsistency of completing these mood charts is reduced by prompting alerts and guided data entry. So an example of an online mood monitoring system is True Colours. This is hosted by the Bipolar Disorder Research Network at the University of Worcester and also Cardiff University. It was originally designed by colleagues at Oxford University, and the system looks at how mood symptoms change over time in individuals with bipolar disorder. True Colours will ask you to answer weekly questions online about your mood and changes in your routine, sleep and medications. The system enables participants to access their data, which they submit, and then you can see a graph of your mood scores over time. So another example amongst many is MoodScope. So MoodScope can measure your mood every day using an online card game. You can track your scores to learn more about what may be causing you to feel up and down. And then these scores can also be shared with close friends and family who support you. So it's really important to remember that even monitoring your mood won't stop mood episodes from occurring out of the blue. However, it's a useful strategy for recognising early signs of becoming unwell and helps you put a plan in place of what to do in times of distress. So the last part of the presentation will focus on tips for staying well. So managing your bipolar disorder long term can also involve checking in on your physical health as well as your mental health. So making small changes to your lifestyle can have a positive impact on your overall well-being. So this could be things like taking care of your diet, sleep, exercise, daily routine, and relationships can help manage your condition effectively. So for example, keeping a daily routine can give you structure to your day and may give you a sense of purpose. This is especially important during this challenging time. You may also want to consider joining a support group where you can share your experiences with others and also learn from their experience of bipolar disorder. It's also a great way of giving each other support. So local groups can be usually found online. For example, Bipolar UK have an online support group as well as face-to-face support groups in some areas of the country. So last but not least, we have a short clip here of Hannah and I discussing her experience of bipolar disorder and what she has done to keep herself well. So I think if Kat would be able to share that with us. Hi Hannah, so thanks again for obviously agreeing to speak to me today just about your experience of bipolar disorder and what you've done in the past in order to keep yourself as well as possible. So just thinking about those times when you've been unwell, what do you think were those things that sort of speeded that up or slowed your recovery down?
I think knowledge has really helped. So understanding and learning things like my early warning signs or my symptoms, things that I do that I can notice and see, like if I'm getting hypomanic, for instance, I won't be getting enough sleep. So I start losing sleep a lot, and then I start spending a lot more money and things like that. And now that I have the information, I know that those are things I do. So I can stop doing it when it happens. Whereas in the beginning, when I didn't really know what was going on, I had a long period of depression, and I didn't know how to get myself out of it. So I just sort of let it spiral out of control and ended up spending a very long period of time depressed. Whereas thankfully now I wouldn't let that get worse if I can help it.
And is that something that you learned to manage over time yourself, or is that something that you managed on your own as well as with the help of others?
Yeah, So I have had a lot of help of my mother. I spent a lot of time when I was at my sickest living with her. So she was very supportive and very understanding and very helpful in my recovery. But it's also, you can't fully rely on other people. You have to learn these things for yourself. So, you know, going and attending courses like the bipolar education program, it can really teach you a lot in learning what these things are.
Brilliant, and obviously that's like what we like to hear. So, and
a nice plug for you.
Yeah, exactly. And just to ask, is it difficult doing things that you know keep you well during periods of remission?
Yeah. So if I'm depressed, I'll just want to spend all day in bed. I won't want to do anything, and then I'll let all my housework or my work just pile up. And then it's even harder to get out of it. Or, you know, on the opposite end of things, I'll probably start drinking more, start going out more, start spending more. And sometimes these things can like creep up on you until you realize you're doing it. So, you know, until you realize it's what you're doing, you can't really curb it. But if you can write down the symptoms specific to your moods, then you can sort of check in every now and then.
So when you're feeling like that, by having those things written down, it helps you identify that more quickly, you know, sort of what your symptoms are and how you're behaving at that time.
Yeah, I don't think that people should obsess about it. But if you have bipolar disorder, then you do need to think about it sometimes. You know, are you buying things because it's a sale and you just want to buy things, or are you looking for excuses to buy things because your mood is a little unstable?
And I suppose it's, you know yourself, so you'll know whether it is the case that you are becoming unwell, or actually this is just something that I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And have you tried any of the mood monitoring exercises that were discussed in this presentation, like, you know, the mood charts or the mood scales that Bipolar UK have put together?
Yeah, I've used both of those.
Fantastic.
I don't use them all the time. I have just used them every now and then, or when my condition's in remission, then I might pick it back up and go over it again.
Okay, and did you find them quite helpful to use?
Yeah, they can be, although it can be difficult when you have something like bipolar disorder to keep on top of those things. But if you can, obviously it's great, you know, if you can have a little diary and just every day check off, you know, your mood 1 to 10, see where you're at. But it is difficult, and I will be honest that I don't do it every day.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing to remember, isn't it, that when you're sort of in that period of feeling quite unwell, you know, it's not to sort of punish yourself for not completing it on that day. You know, you can do as much as you can, but some days you're just not going to feel like wanting to record your mood, are you? So that's completely understandable. And do you find it relatively easy or difficult to do when you're actually completing it?
It's an easy thing to do, but it's also something that can just slip your mind. You know, you've got a million and one other things to do. So, you know, and obviously if you're not feeling well, then your priority is in other areas sometimes. So writing down your moods in a mood diary or that kind of thing, I find it easier sometimes to just, like I said, my mum's very supportive, so I phone my mum and I say, Mum, feeling like this today. And then, you know, I'll phone her the next day, Mum, I'm feeling like this today, and she'll help me kind of keep on top of things.
So working alongside your mum, obviously she's helped you monitor how you're doing on a daily basis as well as filling in things such as a mood chart or a scale?
Yeah, there are other things I've used as well. There's apps you can download on your phone.
Okay, yeah.
And they'll monitor your mood for you too. And even if monitoring your mood is, you know, not something that you find personally useful, it can be useful for things like talking to GPs and psychiatrists and mental health nurses, so that they can keep track of things.
And is that something you've done personally yourself before?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I think that's really good advice for others as well, if it's something that they may have not considered in the past, and it might be something that could be helpful to others experiencing bipolar disorder such as yourself. And just lastly, do you miss periods of high mood?
Personally, I don't. I mean, if I'm depressed, yes, I do. I wish I had that get up and go drive where nothing can stop me. But my hypomania, because I have bipolar type 2, is a lot more irritable, and I get a lot of anxiety with mine as well. So it's not as joyful as some people. I have friends that have bipolar disorder, and they've told me that they really enjoy mania, although it has had a very detrimental impact on their lives.
I think that's another thing as well, is, you know, that there are different types of bipolar disorder, and every individual experiences it very differently. So such as yourself, who experiences the more irritability side of bipolar, then others experience that feeling of more elation, don't they? So yeah. It's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Hannah, for speaking with me today, just on tips on how to stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
Thank
Good
you.
work. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Alice. Hey, I've got some questions for April, Sarah, and Hannah. Self-management, how easy is it? I mean, identifying triggers, monitoring your mood, looking for early warning signs. How easy is it? April, do you want to go first?
It's not easy, if I'm honest. So I was diagnosed late in life. I was diagnosed at 27. I'm now 29, but I've been living with what I imagine was bipolar since the age of 15. For me, I really need my troops to rally around me, because they tend to know me better than myself. I'm very undulating, which, Hannah, I don't know if you could relate to that as well with type 2. It's not, I can go through the whole scale of emotions within a day. What I now know is small things. So we've done a big discussion on the word has slipped my mind, on mindfulness. And I was explaining to the Bipolar UK community, mindfulness to me sometimes is having my favourite pizza and putting something on the telly. And if I can focus what that is on the telly, that is enough for me to get through that evening. So it's a little bit different for me.
Do you think it gets easier as the months and the years go on, April? Do you think you learn stuff about yourself? Do you think?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. This new statistic that came out recently, that bipolar is 70% genetic and 30% triggered by trauma, that actually took a big weight off my shoulders. It kind of made me go, I know what was in me. I can see that trace back to when I was a kid, and I know what my trauma was. It doesn't get easier. You just have more and more tools in your kit. In fact, I think it's getting a little bit more difficult, because, you know, when you're in your early 20s or your late teens, you don't have the same responsibilities, or you don't have the same kind of pressure of what society puts on you at the age of 29. And I know there's a question out there about what your partner can do to support you. I'm just still trying to look for a partner, let alone have one support me. So it's that kind of thing. So if I'm really, and I'm not a Debbie Downer, I'm the first to make everything quite hopeful, but it's tricky. It's a daily battle.
Thanks, April. How about you, Hannah? How easy is self-management? I know you talked about it in the video, but
yeah, you can do it. But I think with bipolar, you have a lot of it is struggling with your motivation to manage your moods, but also struggling with like your focus as well to manage your moods, write it down and keep track of it all and things like that. It is really difficult, but you need to do it when you're well so that you catch it early. Because I know I saw someone asking a question about saying that they can't do that when they're unwell, and I can't do it when I'm unwell either. But if you're doing it when you're stable, the chances are you're going to notice something little, and that's something that comes with age as well. I mean, I've only been talking diagnosis for the last 2-3 years, so I'm late with that as well, but it's something that comes with the knowledge you get on the course. You can start thinking about early warning signs and then start pinpointing what ones you have specifically.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Sarah, anything to
I think the only thing to add is that I think for a long time I fought against myself, and I think, you know, understanding and knowledge and then acceptance for me has been really important. You know, I spent a long time thinking, oh no, I don't want to be miserable, I don't want to be, you know, like this, you know, and I used to sort of beat myself up about why I was going into depressive states, you know, and now it's a bit more sort of like, okay, so it's coming, I've done too much, I need to calm down, this is fine and it will pass. And I think that acceptance and all the knowledge that comes with that helps me sort of deal with the fact that the mood is shifting and it'll shift back, and I just need to do all the things that I do to allow that to take its time and to get back to where I want to be. So yeah, I think for me that's been quite a key thing.
One positive thing, if I may, John, is that we found out last year it wasn't the lows which I so often experience more than the highs. My friends and family went, we need to stop her from going so high, because the higher you go, the further you have to fall. So that was a really positive thing. That was like a breakthrough for my support network.
We talked about monitoring mood. I think it was Holly, or was it Kate, or it might have been Alice. It was all three of you, maybe.
Everybody.
Everyone. Do you think there's a danger that if you spend a lot of time monitoring your mood and looking to see if there's signs of you becoming unwell, that it might actually push you into some episode, even if it's a small one, because you're looking for something? And if you look for something, you might find it even if it's not there.
I find
Sarah?
it quite hard to be objective. But you know, when you're in a mood, you know, whichever, especially in my hyper state, I find it hard to be objective about how high I am, because unlike Hannah, I quite enjoy it, because I feel that's much more in my natural personality. So I just think, oh, this is me, this is great, yeah, I can be more sociable again, because the depressive states are much harder for me, you know, when I sort of retreat. So yeah.
So Sarah, what do you do when people say, hey Sarah, your mood's going up a little bit, perhaps you should slow down, you know?
Yes, I try and sort of like channel the surge of energy in positive ways. So I will exercise, but I know things like trying not to take on too much. That's really important.
But you've learned that through experience, haven't you, Sarah? We've done this. You said this before.
Yeah, I mean, and that's time, and I think that's, you know, if it's an early diagnosis that's fairly recent, these things take time. You know, my diagnosis has been a bit longer than the other two, but you know, I still haven't got it right. It's still, you know, it doesn't go away, but I think my acceptance and my understanding, you know, I can feel it coming, and I know, right, time to sleep, Sarah, time to slow down, time to take your foot off that pedal. And then the opposite, okay, maybe that trip that you've planned to go away is a bit too far to drive, so maybe we should not be driving at the moment, and things like that. So
it's good that you got the experience. Well, it's not good that you've learned through bitter experiences, but it's good that you can have some insight into it now, isn't it? But I guess there's a window in which you have to catch it. If you leave it too long, think you're too far, maybe.
Yeah, certainly in a mania, when I feel it coming on, I really communicate with work about that one, because I'm very conscious of, I don't want to be stepping on people's toes and, being very opinionated. So, my manager's very good at sort of like, I have a quick conversation that this is happening, so we put me on the back burner a little bit. Yeah. So.
Thanks, Sarah. Hey, April.
Can I ask you something about what you said about beating yourself up? Because that feels a key message to me, is that we know that having bipolar, guilt can be a massive part of the symptoms that people experience. How does the fact that, how can you do some of these techniques without it just being another source of guilt that you're not being able to manage, and it leading to, as you put it, beat yourself up about it? How do you avoid that, do you think?
I talk to myself. I give myself a good talking to. I'm a bit like, come on, Sarah, you can do this. We've done it before. It's going to pass. And I just give myself a good talking to. And I go back to real basic things like breathing exercises, mindfulness, relaxation, things that I know will just calm me. And I can't stress the word, but acceptance. For me, instead of fighting it, acceptance has been for me that takes me to the next level of like, this is what it is, and I can do this.
Thanks, Sarah. April, we talked about early warning signs and how they can come. I mean, there was a paper that was published. It takes about 2 weeks for most people to have the first signs, which I thought was a bit long, to be honest. I thought most people get it within, days, if not hours. How quick do you get signs of mood change for you, significant mood changes?
Well, I have a prime example of this. I was away at the weekend for a friend's 30th. It was my business partner's husband, actually. And my business partner has a family member with bipolar. So she's been an absolute godsend. And when I was diagnosed, that was the only other person I knew that had bipolar. And I didn't really know what bipolar was. So that's how unspoken it was. And her dad turned up on the first day, and we just had a little chat. And then he turned up on the second day and he went, "You're feeling better today, aren't you?" And I went, I think I'm just fine. He said, "You were a little bit manic yesterday." And I was like, whoa. So you've got some people like Sarah, like her dad, like now my mum, who only have to look at me and go, "That's where you are." So I'm just grateful that I have those people around me, because, sometimes you just don't know. You're just having a really good time. What I will say, to follow on from Sarah's thing, something that lockdown has taught me about this, having this shame and this guilt. And I see some questions down here as well about how you tell new people and other things like that. Once everyone found out, and it took me a year to really work it out, and then I told people, their behaviour was incredible, because they kind of went, "Oh, that's what that is," and then they rallied round. And what lockdown has told me is your behaviour is only odd when the wrong people are around you. If you've got the right people around you, they will manage it and they will love you. But it's only the people around you who don't quite understand it or haven't had any experience, so their reaction's a bit different, and then that makes you feel odd.
I guess you got to be around supportive people, because I'm sure that, if your mood is a little bit high, they might encourage you because you're so entertaining and sort of push you just to sort of be more entertaining.
Yeah, like a monkey.
Maybe. Okay, monkey. Hannah.
Hi.
Why a monkey? Sorry. All right. Hannah, so how quick are your early warning signs, or how soon are your early warning signs before an episode comes along?
I don't know, really. Sometimes they come on quite quickly and I haven't really caught it. Like if my depression comes on, then it could be by the point that I'm in bed and then I'm going, so I'm depressed. But usually when I get hypomanic, I can usually see that happening in the form of things like I get less sleep, so I make sure that I go to bed early, because that's a real issue for me. If I'm not sleeping, my mental health just goes really downhill. And if I'm hypomanic, then I start getting up really early in the mornings. And I also take on a lot more sort of what you would call goal-orientated activities, that I want to just do them all and I want to be the best at them all. So that one, hypomania, comes on quite soon. Depression creeps up on me every time.
It must be a terrible feeling when it's coming along, the depression, when you know that it's
I've had such
approaching
bad
around the corner.
That it terrifies me every time. I'm like, oh no, what if this lasts like it did the first time, you know? So
okay, thanks,
but
Anna.
it doesn't. So
Good. Sarah, how quick is it for you when your mood changes?
Mine's quite seasonal as well. So I almost now have a pattern in a year that I can sort of see, you know, that I'll have spring will sort of be a manic time, and then we'll sort of like, you know, dip towards the summer, and then we'll sort of like come back up again, you know, and then down again. So I have a seasonal, so I've sort of tuned into that, and I know there are certain episodes that have you know, things that have happened, you know, in the year, like at the birth of my children, for example, that will sort of like, when that's come in, I anticipate where my mood is going to be. So I always hope that it's not going to shift, but it comes back. So I just ride it. Yeah. So.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks all three of you for your open and honest answers. Ian, should we do the question? Is there anything else you want to add, Ian, or should we move on to the questions and answers that people have sent in?
No, move on to the questions, Sean. Just to remind people that we're not going to be able to cover all the questions that are asked, but we will. We've got a recorder. We'll do some written responses that we'll post up, and we'll let people know how they can access that. So if you're going to post a question, if you sent a question in, it's not covered, we'll come to those. So obviously we can't deal with everything in the time we've got available tonight.
Can I start? I've got a hard one for you, Ian. Can I start off with that one?
I'd be delighted, John, if you give me a hard one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Somebody said they'd like to access the psychoeducation programme, the full psychoeducation programme like they were done in Wales. And is it only open to people in Wales?
I think what I'd say in relation to that is we John, that we as I say, we've delivered it to lots of people in Wales now, and we know that can be a real benefit to people, that people really can get a lot out of the course, and we want to spread that as far and wide across the UK as possible. So I think what we'd like to do is people to join with us to try and agitate, if you like, along with Bipolar UK, for this to be something that isn't just, you know, a postcode lottery of whether you're lucky to live somewhere where courses are being offered, but we'd like this to be something that's delivered within the NHS across all of the UK. So what we have done over the last year is develop some training programs for people who want to facilitate that. So we're going to actively campaign now and try and train clinicians up locally across the UK to try and deliver that, and we'll be kind of partnering up with Bipolar UK to try and do that. So if people kind of let us know, that they want to deliver courses locally, that will really help us. And if what I would say to people listening who think this would be good to access is ask your services locally, ask your psychiatrist, ask your GP, is this something that's available? Why isn't it something available? It's in the NICE guidelines, it's in all of the guidelines that it should be. What we need is that, you know, the voice of those who are living with this condition to really say this is something that, yeah, we should all have access to. Do you want to add anything to that, John?
No, it's, as I say, we've had some really nice feedback from the people who've done the course, and it would be really nice if it was used further outside Wales. I mean, it is in some places it is, but it's not a shame that it's not embedded in NHS care. It's in the NICE guidelines. Group psychoeducation interventions are in the NICE guidelines for bipolar disorder. So it's a shame it's not.
So we'll be working towards that, and if people can join with us, so I think the voice of lived experience here is really important to add to ours to demand this is something that people can get access to. I think that's the only way that we're going to make a difference here.
Thanks, Ian. And thanks for the question. We're getting lots of questions about some of the materials or some of the resources we've used during this course. And I think, Ian, they're all on the, are they going to be on the NCMH website?
We'll work with Catherine and the team to work out how we can both give access to the recordings that we've made of the sessions. So if you've joined today and you didn't tune in for the first two, we'll give you access to those, but also to some of the resources, some of the things that the team mentioned in their talks. We'll put some links up to there, and we'll make sure everybody that's registered gets access to those.
Thanks, Ian. Another question is relating to psychological approaches, and we talked about social rhythm therapy last week and how the importance it is in having routine and structure in the day. And someone's written in saying they worry perhaps they might go overboard in trying to cram too much in, trying to put too much structure in. April, do you worry that you might be trying to, not when your mood is high, because of the importance of maintaining routine, that you might actually be trying too hard?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very fortunate. Well, I can't work for anyone else. I said that to you guys before. I run my own company, so I can mold my routine to wherever I am on the mood scale. But to do that, I do need my business partner to do that with me every time. I think because of my general personality, I like to cram in a lot. I want to be at full capacity the whole time because I need the distraction, which again, you then end up burning out. And when you burn out and you're not achieving the things that you want to do, that then kind of triggers you into a low period. So I'm still very much learning, and it's tough as well. And I don't know if Sarah or Hannah have this, but I'm also borderline personality disorder. So the concoction of that is tricky to negotiate because the medication deals with the bipolar to an extent, but the borderline can only be treated with therapy, and that is very triggered by people. So that's a new diagnosis to me. So I'm still very much, I'm learning with everyone else.
Thanks, April. Hannah, I got a question for you. How can you differentiate between a few good days and an onset of a mood episode? Yeah.
Well, I guess that is a good question, because sometimes you might be worried that you're getting manic or hypomanic when really it's just you're having a good day, you're having a good time. If you're going to a wedding or if you're going to a party, your mood is going to be elevated. And I guess that's kind of one of the issues with having bipolar, is struggling with that elevated mood, making sure that you can bring it back into balance. So I would say that you would notice if it's an episode, well, for me, I would notice my irritation and anxiety and lack of sleep. And so you have to look for the bad symptoms, I guess. You have to look for those things like, am I doing things that are detrimental to my health, or have other people that can look into that for you? Because if you're not doing anything that's not particularly bad, then carry on, just accept it, keep going.
I think in the course we say we don't, if you identify one symptoms, say if you're not sleeping, you shouldn't just base a change or assume a change in mood is based on one symptom. I think you should look for a cluster of a few symptoms to work out. Thanks, Hannah. And Sarah, a final question for you. Somebody who had a diagnosis in their mid-40s and now they're struggling how to accept it. Very similar to you, Sarah, wasn't it?
Yes, very similar to me. I think.
How did you accept it?
Time of, there's no quick fix. It's not going away. The time of experiencing that over a period, over a long time, you realize that this is how it is now. So now I have knowledge, and now I have tools in my kit bag to deal with things. Then I have to accept it, because I think if you're always battling against it, it's a shift in your brain. It is a mind shift. If you're battling against something, it's much harder. If you accept that wall is high, I'm going to have a go at it. It's not so hard to climb. For me, it's just a mind shift, and it's something that I have to practice. I have to say to myself, "This is okay, Sar. You've done it before. You can do it again." And it's just, I have friends who support and tell me, reflect and say, "Look how great you were then," or "Look how hard that's been, and you've managed to do that." So looking back and seeing what you've achieved. But it is a shift in your mind, and I think you just have to, a daily mantra, keep telling yourself.
Thanks, Sarah. That was lovely. Thank you. Ian, over to you, Gov.
Excellent. So I think for the first time ever, we've stuck to time tonight, which is great. I'd like to thank everybody involved in delivering this. Makes me incredibly proud to be part of such a fantastic team. Huge thanks to April for being Simon tonight and stepping in. Much better shirt than any of the rest of us. April, you definitely win that.
Thanks for having me.
I think if I can summarise, I think what we've tried to do over the last 3 weeks is give a little bit of a taster of the some of the kinds of content that that's delivered in self-management psychoeducation programs. One of the key things that it can't deliver, though, is and I guess, sorry, it struck me when you're talking about accepting the diagnosis. One of the things I think that's been a real benefit from bringing people with bipolar disorder with that experience together is sometimes it's in talking to each other and talking about each other's experience that acceptance has come. We are always thinking about how we can promote this approach, because we think it's really, really good. So please let us know if it's something that you'd like to hear more of, if you'd like us to do more webinars, if you're, one of the things we're considering and thinking about is particularly in this socially distanced time in which we live, is whether to do some psychoeducation sessions online, whether that's something that you'd be interested in if we develop it. Let us know, give us some feedback. John, I think we're going to send out some feedback forms for the webinars. Please be kind. We've been we're doing our best. We had some huge gremlins, technical problems in the first session. I think our professional delivery has got better week on week. I think it's particularly been helped by April being involved this week. And is there anything, John, anything the rest of the team that I've failed to mention? Actually, one thing I did want to say is I think I'd really like to give a particular thanks to Sarah, to Hannah, and to April today, because I think having the voice of lived experience as part of what we've done has been absolutely key. We couldn't have done it without that. And I think it's we were incredibly grateful, because it's, to be prepared to kind of talk about such personal things, in a webinar setting like this. I think it's brilliant, and we'd really like to thank you for that. So, John, is there anything I've forgotten?
No, I was going to say that.
anything that you'd like to add then to that thanks at the end?
No, I would have
just to
said
say,
that as well.
we'll keep in touch. We'll send out some links to some of the both the contents that you can, if you've missed some of the previous webinars, you can view again, and some of the resources that we've referred to today. And with that, shall I close things? Is anything, April, that you'd like to say to finish off? Shall we give the last word to you and Bipolar UK?
Oh God. The only thing I'll say is it's really tough, and you've got to do it at your own time. But the reason I'm so open about this is because I think about what 15-year-old April needed at that time, and representation, particularly within my industry. Like we learn and we consume and we accept when we see it on our screens. So that is why I speak so openly about it. And to that end, if anyone fancies it, watch Modern Love episode 3. They give it a real good go. And that for me was the first time I could put something in front of my loved ones that wasn't an article or statistics. And I could be like, this, what Anne Hathaway's doing is what happens to me. And it changed all my family and friends' perception of it.
Excellent, thank you, April. And with that, on that point, I'm going to go off and what was it again? Modern Love.
Modern Love, Amazon Prime, episode 3. Watch it out of episodes.
Well, that's my evening sorted. And thank you all. It's been great. Thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully we can, we'll see you all again. I'm sure there's other webinars that we can think about putting on. So let us know the kinds of things that you might like to be covered. With that, I'll close, because I've really waffled on too long now. So bye everybody. And we have to, everybody has to do the final Zoom wave, because actually, yeah, that's the thing now, isn't it? Bye. Okay.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers everybody.
Bye.